Good day, good day, good day. It is Impact Podcast Day, and welcome, welcome, welcome. We are back. We're back, and today we're talking about lack or luxury. So let me give you some context what that is about. So there was a phenomenal opportunity to go to the beautiful Puerto Rico Region 2 Head Start Conference in Puerto Rico. So I'm probably going to take a little bit of a step back because my lady friends here had the opportunity to actually go and present. And so what we're going to unpack today are some things that a lot of times we may feel like is a lack, that we don't have everything that we want, desire, or feel that we need. But when you step out of the space that you are in, you find out that those things that you believe is a lack is actually a luxury. What am I talking about? Right. So we're in education, and when you go to other countries, even when we're traveling, right? I know for us, we love to go to islands, and basic things like a big house with the yard, a good solid roof, stuff like that, right? Is you riding through, and people don't have that. And so you start to realize that, okay, what I do have is more than enough. So we're going to unpack the experience in Puerto Rico and talk about some things that we have here in America that may not be privy. A lot of the people in other countries may not be privy to. So let's unpack that a little bit. Ladies, welcome, 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 Damaris and Dr. Obiama. Please tell us a
Hi,
little
everyone.
bit of the experience at the Head Start Conference in Puerto Rico.
Obiami,
Good
you can start
morning.
because I have so much.
Okay.
There's so
All
much
right.
unpacking.
Okay. So the first thing is just beautiful. Such a great experience. Such a great experience. We immediately went in and wanted to find out who was in a room. And I'm so grateful we did that as a icebreaker because it allowed us to see how far and where people travel from. So there were the New Jersey was in the room, St. Louis was in the room, New York was in the room, Puerto Rico was in the room. Uh, where else?
I believe it was Missouri and Chicago.
Hmm. I know it was New York and New Jersey, and I'm trying to think, was there any other place?
Missouri and Chicago as well.
Okay. So we'll just go with those. We'll just go with those. The ones that stuck out for me was the disparities in uh, um, New Jersey and in Puerto Rico.
Between the two, the disparities between New Jersey and Puerto Rico.
Well, even between New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
Oh, let's talk about it.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we're just a hop, skip it. My house is like
Right,
minutes from New Jersey, and so the distance isn't far, but there's disparities.
right. So here's the thing. Um, our biggest takeaway is one of the things that we know is that Pennsylvania still remains one of the strictest states when it comes to child care regulations and
Mm.
laws. What we learned from talking to Dr. Gunley, am I saying his name correctly?
Gunling.
Gunley, is that for years, Pennsylvania, especially when Ed Rendell and Harriet Ditcher, right, were in office, that Pennsylvania was at the top running in terms of services and programming and all of those things. And we are still much very ahead. However, because of our one view perspective, what we learned is that what has been and what we have been so privileged to enjoy as a luxury is a whole lot of gap and lack in
Mm.
other places, from legislation on down at the federal level. So Pennsylvania is strategically, phenomenally amazing at advocacy, for example. Whereas in other states, the advocacy component is not there.
Mm.
They don't have groups that have figured out how to come together and be a united voice to advocate for the needs of their program, their children, and their families. And so, because of that, there are a lot of regulations that we don't have that they have, just in terms of getting help, volunteers, bringing families in. Yes, there are a lot of restrictions due to their governmental municipalities,
Got
right?
you.
And
Okay.
then on top of that, we learned in Puerto Rico specifically, they have lost a lot of their early childhood programs at the collegiate level. So they don't even have a pipeline to
Pipeline.
pull
Yep.
from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Meaning, right, this idea that we have of recruiting college students and things like that, you're saying that is not available to them,
Non existent.
non-existent. Wow.
So they have,
Oh, oh, I think she
I
froze
have
right now.
ECE. Oh, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. 5 or 6 colleges, maybe perhaps that they had with ECE, early childhood education, where they can pull from. A lot of colleges stop providing early childhood education. So it's very limited. So yeah, they didn't have a pipeline. And I agree with everything that Abiyama said. And we started on focus with staff recruitment strategies, right? Holistic approaches, what can be done, what can't be done, and listening to the room about where, what, 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 what is actually keeping them from staffing. One thing that's universal is post COVID, right?
Hmm.
We do
Hmm.
know that post COVID, people are just not getting into the field. Staffing, salaries was something that is across board, right? Early childhood education is not only not funded correctly, right, or funded the way that we should be funded in amongst Pennsylvania, but across board for every attendee that was there. That was something that they talked about, and they talked about as well the different attitudes now from the new people coming into the field, where they, because there's so many staff shortages, they go to school for, to become an educated, become a teacher, and they feel as though changing diapers is beneath them. So they, leave the field because they, like, we didn't go to school to change diapers, or, to feed bottles. We came to school to teach, right? So they want that profession, the professionalism, right? The title of that profession to what they went to school with. So kudos to them for like really advocating, right? For that. But then we talked about as well, what some strategies that you can have. And, we talked about the wording, right? This is a service field still. So why should we
Yeah.
come to work for you, right? So we did pose that question across the room, and we noticed that we had them thinking, because I don't feel like they really, we're so focused on, we need staff, we need to fill these seats, we need this, we need that. But they're not focusing on the why. Why should I come work for you? What are your core values? We talk a lot about that in our sessions. And I feel like that was like, I could smell the wood in the room, because it really put them to really think about their staff and recruitment in a different way, where, this is, if people are still, and there are some folks that are still looking into early childhood education as their career, and if those are the folks that, we're looking at, then we need to understand how we're going to tap into those folks, right? Why should they come to work for your organization? What do you provide? And some of the feedbacks were really, really great. But it was definitely a learning experience to me as well, right? Because I said, wow, Philadelphia, I left there saying Pennsylvania can eat a piece of humble pie. right?
Mhm.
Because we do complain, because what that's where we complain. We need more money. We need this. We need that. We don't have enough of this. We don't have enough of that. But we were the only people in that room that have a teacher pipeline.
Only.
We were the only teacher in that room that have certification. What is it called? The certification, the teacher certification, like a fellowship type of thing to teacher alternative pathways. That's what it
Yes.
is, an
Ooh.
alternative pathway to teacher certification programs. They did not have that. We were the only people in the room that really only respond to, like, okay, we are partners with the school district of Philadelphia, but that's exactly what we are. We're partners. So even when the the feds partners come in to advocate for us, right? So our partners are saying that they are missing this. How can we meet, the federal guidelines and the regulations, plus still support our partners, right? And still support, the businesses that our partners have. So I feel like that was really missing. We had regional managers in our session. So when we brought things up, the regional managers immediately was like, "Oh no, 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 we can't do that." And I'm like, "But why?
Wait,
But why?"
Head Start regional managers.
Yes, they were in our sessions. It was pretty some powerhouses in our session.
Yes, for Puerto
Yeah,
Rico. We had
yes,
Oh,
three. We,
from
we had
Puerto.
the
Got
yes,
you. So Head Start looks
yeah.
different, right? Because Head
Um,
Start is federal. The Head Start looks different
oh yes,
here from here to Puerto
yes,
Rico, even though it's the Head Start program.
but it looks different in Jersey as
absolutely,
well. It looked different in St.
yes.
No, it wasn't just Puerto Rico. I mean, when I tell you that Pennsylvania, like we really have way more, and we are so further advanced than the other states.
Wow. Wow. Because I know we a lot of times have the conversation about our quality rating system, right? I know we are before, we're ahead of a lot of
We
states in
didn't
regards
we
to
didn't
that,
get to,
our higher
yeah, we
level
didn't get to
quality.
unpack. Yeah, we didn't get to unpack the quality component during the session
We're not even
because
talking
it
quality. We're
turned into,
talking.
yeah, we're not even talking quality at this point, right? Um, but one of the things that was pretty interesting was the advocacy. It turned into advocacy because they were very passionate, and you could hear the passion in their room, right?
Mhm.
They're passionate about what they do. They want to service their communities. They want to bring quality, and get children really ready and prepared. And then we pivoted to, well, then we need to a collaborative effort, right? Into advocating for the needs of communities. So, they ended up exchanging, we gave them opportunities to exchange like their contact information with each other to collaborate. Because I feel like they didn't collaborate either. So this session became a collaboration exercise, right? Which is really greatly put together by Dr. Martin, and said, okay, now we're going to, get into these groups, and I want you to come up with a work on, right? What works for you in your center, and let's collaborate, let's talk. And I feel like we as ECE providers, we do that a lot, right? And the work that we do together, Leah, Dr. Martin, it's very collaborative, right? I'll say, hey, Aaliyah, I'll call you and be like, what's working in your center? Because this is not working in mine. So let's work together to see how this is, because we don't see each other as competitors. I don't feel like they see each other as competitors either. I feel like there's no moments or opportunities to collaborate, right? And to really figure this out together, even if it is to create an advocacy component and what their asks are to bring back to their legislators, if that makes sense.
That's
Yeah.
such a great point. I feel like we've had an episode around the power of partnerships, and we constantly have those conversations. And I think what you just said, Damaris, was so powerful because I do think we need to constantly be reminded of how much more power we have and how stronger we are when we come together, and how much more impact we can make when we do that. And for this session to be about staffing and things like that, but the people in the room themselves don't even have the opportunities to collaborate and connect and partner, that's, I feel sad. Like, that's
Yeah.
really an injustice, if you will, to not just the leaders, the teachers, but also the children.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that we were able to create a survey, a feedback survey, very much how we do an ELF. And what we found from the feedback in the survey was two things that was consistent in terms of feedback that they said they're going to work on as a result of what we presented to them, and that was connecting and
Collaboration.
collaborating. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Which is
because
really interesting. Yes. We were
yeah,
so excited. Yeah.
we were really excited because it was almost as if we gave them permission to do so.
Wow.
Like, it was almost as
Something
if,
free.
yeah. But they
Right?
but
That's
so but we talk about it, but if nobody creates opportunity or access or a platform, it's just a great conversation in
You know,
theory.
and the lack of luxury, right? Going back to this title, we also realized that Pennsylvania needs to step their game up. Yes, we have a lot more, but
also.
because we have a lot more, right, we don't take advantage of the opportunities to come out of the space that we're in to learn about others.
Right.
And
That
one
part.
the first thing, and I went to the Head Start. This is my second year at the Region 2, and the first year was like interesting, and everybody asked me. I was the only Pennsylvanian in the room last year, and I'm pretty sure this year, besides Dr. Martin. And everybody was like, "Where are you from?" And I told them, and they're like, "Well, what are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Networking, looking for resources," right?
Yes.
Because if I am servicing a majority Hispanic
Mhm.
community,
Yeah.
I need to go where that Hispanic community to understand and to plug and to connect, right?
Yeah.
So why not be there? Why not listen to what you are doing, what works for your organization, what works for your community, to bring it back to improve ours, right? Our function, our the way that we do things, and so on and so forth. And we were talking about that as Opiama and I were unpacking. um Pennsylvania fails that. Like, a lot of providers stay really stuck in where they are. Yeah, they go to conferences, but the smaller, I wouldn't, not the smaller, not as many providers. It's the same providers that are always going out trying to really get, better themselves, right? Or improve practices, not better themselves, but improve practices. And I think that that is so great, because even entering the room, I looked at Obiama when we first entered, and I said, "What do you think?" She said, "Oh yeah. Oh yeah." Because it was just like so many people that invested in themselves,
Mm.
right? There was over 500 participants in there.
What do you mentioned that like the same group of people who come outside of their spaces? What do you think that is? And we're talking about even at home here. What do you think?
So at home here is because they have exposure. I believe that they've been in the field for quite some time, and um, they know where to go, right? To go get information, right? Or to go network in certain, where to go for certain network opportunities. And not every provider here is offered, they offered it, but they don't understand the value of it yet,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
I understand the value. I needed to make connections. I knew what was missing here. Even I have a lot of Hispanic teachers, and I don't have materials to give them for them to build their leadership components. So I have to
Mhm.
go where I can find it. And that would be back in Puerto Rico, right? And go into those programs and bring those materials so I can support my teachers and adapt it to the Pennsylvanian way, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I feel as though, that's just one example, but if there's a national Head Start conference, which this is the next one that's coming, right? Or our summit that's happening, the Impact Summit on November 4th. You have to go with what is being presented and go 1, 2, 3, go, right? 1, 2, 3, go. And just
Yep.
say, I'm going to invest to be in this room because these are the questions I need asked. And I'm going to write these questions down before I go in there. And I'm going to push myself to partner, to network, collaborate, or ask anyone in this room, right? Or everyone in this room until I get these questions asked.
Yeah.
And people don't do that. That's something that you have to work on, right? Because I'm an introvert, right? So it's difficult conversating with people in large spaces. I get very overwhelmed. But when I need something, I'm coming for it,
Yeah. Yeah. I
right?
think
I'm coming for
something you said it makes sense. And I think where we can be sometimes is we take things for granted. And we have so much that
it. Yes.
we take it for granted and we don't seek the more. And it made me think about, yes, we created the Impact Summit for the very reason of let's connect with people who well, don't look like us, may not be in the same industry. And do we know exactly what we're going to get? We don't. And that's where the trust comes in, is that I'm just going to be in a room and I'm going to get even what I don't know that I or don't think that I need. Someone always brings up something or shares something that I didn't even know that I needed. And that's where getting in the room, that whole statement, that's where it comes from. Is like you don't
Yes.
know what you don't know until you put yourself in the room and you just soaked up all this stuff. Now you feel full because you thought you only had to go to the child care conference or your industry specific conference. So now you go to a whole other, you go outside of your region, go to Puerto Rico and meet people from all around the world. I mean, come on. Like that's what getting in the room is all about. And so I love that I want to sit with that personally. What are we taking for granted that we have right here with us and not allowing ourselves to grow because we think we have it all or we know it all? You're muted, Obiama.
Such a great point. The thing about mindset, I want to say mindset specifically for Philadelphia, because it's not all of Pennsylvania. It's not all of Pennsylvania. However, I think that when complacency and comfortability team up,
Yeah.
it becomes a danger to everyone's progress.
See,
Because, because the mindset becomes very cancerous.
mm, and then you start sharing that whole thing with the people around you, and now, yes, and now we're all thinking deficiently. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we're all, and so then what happens is we are now in a mindset of competition instead of collaboration,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we're in a fish tank,
Mm-hmm.
and everything outside of the fish tank says there's plenty for us at the buffet. We don't have to fight about it. We can all be in the same line. But when we don't step outside of what's comfortable and we get complacent, what the table looks like is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
The table looks like not enough. The table looks like scarcity.
There we go.
Yeah. And
Yep.
so we really have to, number one, check in with why.
Mm.
Why, right? Why am I here?
Yep.
What do I have to offer? What do I have to give? And what do I need? And where can I get it from?
Yes.
Where else can I get it from? Because it is the scarcity mindset that also prevents us from moving forward and leaping or stretching out into the deep.
Yes.
And then we
Yeah.
allow fear to come in to talk us out of an opportunity to scale, to
Yeah.
grow, to collaborate.
And you know what I thought of when you said that? The scary part is when you're the leader and that is you. And
Yes.
then you're leading other people, right? And
And
so
you
we
don't
were,
know
you
it's
know,
you though.
you, right. And you don't until you get out of this space, right? When you start to one of my daughters went out. We went to celebrate Isis birthday, and one of my other girls came with us and was like, "Oh my goodness, this was, it's a good vibe." Yeah, when you get around different people or you're in different environments, right? You literally can be in a space where you can thrive because
Yes.
we get so, like you said, we get so comfortable in our spaces, but we're so comfortable because we're not growing. And
That's right.
depending on where we are in our lives, it's like it feels good here. But we need that
Well,
stretching. We absolutely need that
we definitely
uncomfortable
need
space
that
to grow.
stretching. We definitely need it because things are always changing.
Yes.
And I had this really great conversation with Damaris on yesterday about she was saying just from a forecasting, right?
Mm,
From a forecasting place that she foresaw where the industry is now 4 years ago before
mhm,
COVID. And so because she saw it, she was able, her and her husband, to financially prepare for it. And so
mm,
they were able to shift and move differently, which allowed them to be still on top, whatever that looks like for them, and not do things that are unethical and not integral because they didn't see things coming. And
mm.
so they didn't prepare. And so now everybody is the enemy because you didn't prepare.
That's where that scarcity comes in at. And then when you start to feel like there's a scarcity, you start stepping on other people, and
Oh,
now you're
yeah. Oh,
fighting.
yeah. Because you're in survival
Yeah,
mode. Yeah, absolutely.
survival.
I'm so sorry. I did
Absolutely.
my phone did something really crazy and said it's too hot. So I have
Oh,
to put
yeah.
it on. I had to put it
Remember that used to happen to
on
me?
air conditioning. So I was like, what's
I was like,
going
you
on?
will
It's
not
still in
stop this
Puerto Rico
conversation.
mode.
Yeah, you will not stop this conversation. That used to happen to me a couple of times when we were recording, but that's okay. And I'm happy you are back because I would love to ask you a little bit about what Obiama just shared about the ability for you and your husband to forecast, to be in a space of abundance and preparation. And where do you think that came from? Was that did you guys just have the space to have those conversations? Were there different environments you were in? Did you get information that everyone else wasn't privy to? What was that?
Uh, yes, yes, and yes. Becoming in this space, a few years ago when I started my work with the nonprofit and really trying to support the Latinx providers in Pennsylvania, and hearing all the resources and the lack of, language injustice and all this other stuff that's been going on with our providers, my mission was to really try to fill those gaps. And going into Pennsylvania, I quickly realized, okay, I can't get these gaps here, so let me pivot and let me figure out how can I holistically find this information. So for the past 2 years, actually 3 years, we decided to park in Puerto Rico for a little bit. So that was my first place. And then I started looking at what conferences can I go there, whether if it's business or education and so on and so forth. So I can go into this space and get my questions asked. Before I got disconnected, I said, I always write questions. How can I do this? Where can I get this? Um, when I go to conference, my time is very valuable, right? So, and I believe everybody's time is valuable. We're not looking to pay for tickets to go, to a conference and just be there as a cute, person in a corner, right? So I had to learn how to work the room. And, prior to COVID, I was in the room, but not at the table, right?
Okay.
I
Mm-hmm.
was in the room, but not at the table. Post and during COVID, I quickly understood how important for me to not only be in the room, but be in the on the table having conversations,
Mm-hmm.
right? And maybe those conversations were not the ones on the topic board, but it became quickly on the topic board, right? And I realized
Because you.
that because I made it a part of the topic board, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I really realized that a lot of people don't know what you're going through unless you share it,
Yes.
right? A lot of people, you might have this beautiful idea and some really great concepts, but if you're sitting in a corner, how are you going to shine? How are you going to support others, right? So, yeah, so I just decided to be in the room and be on the table. So this last year was just research, and this year was like we're going to present,
I love it. I love
Yeah,
that.
right?
and
Because
you
now,
know the,
yeah.
go ahead.
No,
So
no,
I
no. I
just
was just going to
want,
say, just the opportunity to present provides us with those collaboration and that deeper understanding to gear conversations, help gear conversations towards collaborative efforts, and having folks in the room really understand it's different everywhere. And we need
Yeah.
to be in these conversations to really bring back some really valuable information that's going to support you and your organization and your municipality, eh, or your area, wherever it is. So, go ahead,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
no, 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 you're good. So I just was going to say we got to see how much the work that we do is needed everywhere. So that was the other thing. Some of the things that Damaris and I were introducing, again, this is where the mindset of complacency comes in, that the mindset of comfortability comes in, that the mindset of, entitlement even comes into place, right?
Yeah.
Because we're in Pennsylvania where there is a perceived abundance or lack, depending on the program, depending on the provider. And then you go to other places where they're like execution plan, organizational chart, budget. What's that?
Mm.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was pretty interesting too. Obiama, I'm not sure if you taught the language as well, right?
That was a huge that I didn't. That was also huge,
When we
Aaliyah.
started,
There was a huge language. So we had 35 people and only five spoke English
What? So did you have to translate the mirrors,
the
or
whole
did they have?
time. The whole time.
Ooh.
so we said, so luckily I was up the night before and I said, I'm gonna, because that's what we do. We always try to remove barriers. So I said, I'm gonna translate all the
Yes.
slides in Spanish. So I did. So I went prepared. Um, but we weren't prepared for, because it was supposed to be an English session, but most of the people that registered didn't speak. So I said, I quickly apologized and said, we're going to pivot because that's what we are going to do. So we also showed them that we can, or there can be opportunities to provide sessions in both languages because the problems are universal, right? The problems are
Yes.
still universal. We're speaking the same language: staffing shortages,
Mhm.
closures, what's not fair for the
Yep.
families, the what teachers are really doing, the retention component, the continuity of care. All of those conversations were universal. They were just different languages. So it was pretty amazing to be able to pivot. And y'all, I'm just gonna let you guys know, I'm that was my very first speaking conference. And, I've always done like, instruction and behind the screen and, spoke here, but never to kind of, I was hoping Obiama was going to lead. I was just going to play some slides. I knew I was on it, but I was just going to, speak here and there. And Obiama just looked at me and said, the stage is yours. And I was like, oh,
You know she
I
is
did
the, you
one
know she is
I
you
did
know she's the
one
queen
deep
of
breath and
going out there and shine, right? You know she is the queen that you got this. But I got you. I got you. But you
but
got
I got you. But I got you. And it was great. And
And
I'm not sure, I did ask Obiama, I said, how did you feel afterwards, right? Because Aaliyah, I've heard you went to one of my conferences where you had mentioned you was the minority in the group and you felt you understood immediately what is it that people that have that language barrier feels, right? Because you felt like the minority in the group where I asked Sobiama the same thing, and it was just like, yeah, it was different. I didn't understand, but I understood by body language. I understood by, how folks were, the passionate way that they were
yeah.
so here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing. So the majority is, again, 35 people in the room, only 5 people spoke English. And while Damaris wanted me to lead, that's not what was going to serve the room. So I was like, no, you have to, because this is the majority. Like we have to serve the room. And so I was able to support her, which gave her the extra dose that she needed to just, be the eagle that she already is. And but the thing about it is they were so passionate about all of the things. I didn't need to really understand what they were saying because I read the energy in the room. So Zion was like, Mom, you stayed tapped in. Like you were so engaged. You were shaking your head. You would have thought that you knew what they was talking about. I couldn't understand nothing, but I understood the energy.
Wow. And all they had to do was show up with the passion. That was it. That's all
That
they
was
had to
it.
do. And then
That
talk about the
that was
rest.
it. And so, even and I did share, but it was so much translation that had to happen. I was like, no, this isn't what's going to serve the room. And so because of that, there were some people that we lost just because of the translation, and then the 5 people that did speak English, when I was talking or when someone else was talking, we was trying to keep them in the room and keep them in the loop. So it was really interesting to experience. It was really, really interesting to experience. But more importantly, at the end, because we had 90 minutes, the other thing that was really, really important that we got everybody to see, that it really doesn't matter what's your zip code, right? It doesn't matter your community. Not only are the crises universal, but how powerful it is when we just really show up as our authentic self. Another activity that we did was, so the first one was identifying where people were located. But then the second one was I had everyone break up into groups based on their years of experience. So I said, if you have 3 years or less, if you have 3 years of experience or less, I need you to be on this side of the room. If you have between 3 to 10 years of experience, I need you to be on this side of the room. And then if you have and I said specifically in your current role,
Okay.
And if you have over 10 years of experience, then you're the veteran. So we had, I want to say, we had about 15 veterans in the room. We had 10 people that were between 3 and 10 years. And then we had a very small group, it was about 5, who had less than 3 years of experience. However, when we presented them with the issues, they all had the same issues. And so I wanted them to see the purpose of that activity was that so they wouldn't be in their minds thinking that the person with 20 years of experience can't possibly be having the same problem I'm having because they're what? They're more seasoned, they're more mature, they're more experienced. And so I wanted to remove those barriers that could have been
Mm,
internally showing up and not verbally spoken.
oh, that's good.
It
That's
was really
good.
good. It was
And
so good.
as you broke down those different years of experience, all I was thinking about too was just the diversity, right? Sometimes when we say diversity, we're just talking race, but even in our programs, there's always this diversity of experience, particular roles.
And
It was something. It
roles.
was
Oh my
something else
gosh. I don't know. I don't know if
in
you
the
guys had
role.
mentioned. Yeah, there was the executive director to nutrition practices. Regional manager to Head Start Region 3. Like, the roles, the family advocate, it was so many different roles in there. But one thing that each group had very similar was they were there to get new strategies
Mm-hmm.
because they needed new information and updated information, right? They understood they needed to be part of that room to get something new. When we shared the slides, they came back to us at the end and said, "Can you make sure you send us these slides?" Because, and to
Mm-hmm.
us, it means they didn't have that resource.
Yes.
To us, to me, I'm
Very
thinking, oh my gosh, we just shared 5 strategies, the 5 strategies to effective staff recruitment, right? With organization trying to plan when, where, who, why, and we put it in a visual effect where we can have a conversation. Let's talk about this. Let's dig deep about this. Um, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, bring the slide back because I need to take a picture." And we're like, "We're gonna share it. Relax. You're not gonna leave here without it." But it just really, to me, is said these are some basic tools that you can find, but how to implement them is very, very important. And they didn't understand. Like
yes.
they were there for it. They were just soaking that up. So, and I believe our feedback forms were a lot of that, right? Too, Yama, like talking about the tools that we gave them, and to make sure that we shared it, right? Because they wanted it. They wanted it. So,
Yeah. And I love what you said too. I think that's a space that we could do better in general, especially when we're talking about staff retention and just leaders and all of that is we learn a lot. We get a lot of information, but it's the implementation part sometimes that's either missing or not understood. It's like, okay, great. I've gone to school for 4 years, right? We get degree teachers and they have all the information, but don't know how to implement or don't know how
right.
to put into place classroom management or things like that. Or because I think in our industry, we definitely see it. They had these degrees and all these experiences, but no leadership development. And so now you're in a role
Absolutely.
and you don't know how to implement all the things that you learned, which is why community comes into play. Right? Which is why for us, we're always having these conversations, but then doing something about it, which is how Exceptional Leadership Fellowship comes about, which is how the Impact Summit comes about. And all of those things are so related to what we always talk about and what we experience in our businesses, in our programs. And the purpose is to fill the gap. I heard you say, Damaris, in regards to you and your husband doing the research first, or even right, you thinking about okay, what's missing and putting those thoughts together, and then next was implementation. So this was the year you hadn't spoken before, but this was the year to jump out there, and then Obiama push you up in the front, and now you have to speak. But so much more happened because you gave a yes, and that's sometimes that's really all we have to do is give the yes. and just go
Oh my
and just
gosh.
purchase.
The
That's it.
yes to me. And I did tell Biamas, I wasn't scared. I wasn't scared. Once I boost myself up, I have the
America says
confidence
it
because
doesn't get scared, and let's not do it.
I'm passionate about what I'm talking about, right? And I know how to pivot, right? So, we just made it work. But one of the wins for me personally, my personal growth was that I had the courage to say yes, right?
That's it. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and I looked at Obiama and said, "Oh, y'all don't know what y'all got." I said, I said, "You don't know what y'all started because I'm just going to go back, write all this content. I'm going to start doing, so it kind of, it helped me personally, right, to
Mm-hmm.
grow. And then, I was so honored. I don't know if we mentioned this. I know we talked a little bit about it offline, but when at the end, a lady, infant toddler specialist from Chicago came, and I was blown away because she said, "Hey, we talked a little bit about marketing strategies and tools like social media," and she said to me, Your marketing strategies work because I'm here because of you." And she was from Chicago.
Mm.
Yeah, she said, I'm evidence. You have
I'm
reach. Your
evidence.
social media is working, was her exact words. I am
Yeah.
evidence. I was
And
strolling, came across you. I've been following you, and I'm here.
And came to Puerto
from
Rico.
Chicago, yeah. She said yes.
Yes,
She said
she said
yes,
yes
right?
and
She
purchased
said
a ticket.
yes. Purchase a ticket, and she wanted to be in that room. She wanted, and I did have a conversation afterwards with her, and I was just like blown away, right? Just blown away. And I was like, wow, this is what we talk about. Um, investing in yourself, investing in your
Yes.
growth, right? So it was really a humbling, exciting, even to me, it just gave me the boost that I needed to say, okay, then it's working. I may not be reaching as many people in Philadelphia the way I want to, but I'm definitely reaching, right? My reach is out there. So those are the things that my takeaways, my wins, and just being in Puerto Rico and speaking my language and delivering tools and resources, which I'm passionate about under the work under the nonprofit, was just phenomenal. It's just a phenomenal um, experience for me. Yeah.
And then we got
So
to
I,
go
I
to the
definitely
beach.
want to. I saw y'all on the beach. I said, look, y'all looked, and the beach looked beautiful. It
It
looked
So
was.
beautiful. Was it
nice.
It,
warm?
So beautiful.
Oh,
it
it doesn't
was
matter. It was a beach.
warm.
Yes.
It
It
was
was.
very warm, but like I said to Damaris, this is what for me, this is the perfect balance of work and fun. Like we did the work and then we got to debrief and unpack in a way that was authentic for us because where Damaris had took me, it was not a tourist spot. It was on the side of the road. It was very homey. It was I felt safe
Hmm.
and we were able to just
So
sit and eat really good food. Damaris said it
for
ain't
those
really
of
that
you,
safe, but I felt safe.
well, no, I felt safe. I mean, it's an area that I frequent a lot with my husband and I. We just love the area because it's home. It has a lot of culture there. And I gave the little history. It is Taino, so it's like a lot of Indian roots, and this is where the Indians lived in Puerto Rico, and it's just it's called Piñones, and it's so diverse right now. It's just so amazing. The food is amazing, and the people are so humble. And I love to go back to humbling, right? Yes, we like the beautiful, five-star probably hotels or resorts, and that's great. But I like to go back. Me personally, I like to stick my feet back to my roots because that's what lifts me, right? And it keeps me humble. Yes, I want to celebrate. Yes, I want to unpack, but I don't ever want to forget the reason why I'm doing it. So I go, oh, every time I go back home, I go back to my humble beginnings.
I love that. I think listening to all of that, I literally think back to when you first sent the email about the conferences, and the email said, we should do this. And so that I know for me personally, there's times, even when it's something I'm unsure of or nervous about, or whatever the case may be, putting it out to the people you trust, just throwing it out there so that they can help
Yes.
hold you accountable or help hold you up is enough to that's the jump right there. And so, Damaris, that was the jump. We should do this despite you never having spoken before. But in you giving the yes to doing that, you gave so much more to the people who were in that room. The stuff that we sometimes take for granted, the information that's like readily available to us for free in Pennsylvania that we just can easily throw on a slide, that people are like running up to the front of the room to get. Or
Yeah.
we figure out a way to collaborate somehow, whether it's Zoom, a phone call. We like, listen, with time when we get together, the people in the room don't have the opportunities or even the invitation to collaborate. And so, right, like I shared, I think in the social media post, I just finished this amazing book called Go Giver. And that's what this reminds me of. And it basically was saying like this story was a guy who was trying to increase his sales, and he just wanted to sell more. And he ended up connecting with like this rich businessman, and he taught him how to give, like literally just give. And it's not about giving money. It was really, it was one night he gave his wife more time, and someone was trying to make a connection, and he gave them the telephone number. It was the giving that really increased their impact. And that's literally what I heard today in this conversation. And so I want to share with all of you, a lot of time that increase in the impact is giving. And give it a yes. Like give a yes, give yourself a yes. And ultimately that comes back to you in a gift that you don't even know that you're looking for. Again, us plugging the Impact Summit isn't something that really is going to benefit us, because we're going to be in a room anyway. But it really is a gift to everyone else to be able to come with us in this space, so that you can get what it is that you need to get, but also give, right? You have something to share as well. And Damaris mentioned that earlier in regards to, I'm bringing up topics that need to be a part of the conversation. And so your presence in a space is you bringing what you are passionate about, so that it can be discussed, and so that you can be seen as the person who represents that cause, so that we can,
Absolutely.
the reason we're here, impact more people. That is my spiel. Ladies, do y'all have anything else to share before we wrap up?
I'm going to invite you all, if you haven't already been persuaded, unless and you have something that you absolutely cannot change, I invite you, I impress upon you to figure out what you need to move to join us on Saturday, November 4th for our interconnected Impact Summit. Because what I know and what the three of us know is that your answer is in the room. Whatever it is, it's in the room.
It's in that room. Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to end this with saying, say yes to yourselves. Get in that room, because together we can move mountains, right? The Impact Summit, November 4th. I think we failed to mention we're going to the National Head Start as well in New Orleans in December, I
That's
believe it is.
right.
And we're actually
In
presenting
December.
there. In December, we're presenting there. And I think I'm presenting. This is just like the beginning, because I'm also a keynote speaker, Esperanza College, and leading a session there. So but I'm saying yes to all these things because I understand that I need to be in that room, right? I need to learn and I need to give. So I hope you guys join us on November 4th. It's going to be magical, because I know it is, because we're going to make it magical. And I hope to see everyone there.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of the Impact Podcast.
Yes.
See you all.
See you soon, guys. Thank you, ladies.
Bye.